A chain through history, from fields to factories, slavery. It's a word that brings to mind images of brutal oppression and unimaginable cruelty. We think of chains, whips and forced labor on plantations. We tell ourselves that it's all in the past, right? Well, not quite. While slavery, where people are literally owned as property, is less common today, it hasn't completely disappeared. And even more concerning is the rise of new forms of slavery that are more insidious, more widespread, and arguably even harder to escape. The abolition of slavery in places like Sweden, the United States, and around the world was a momentous victory. It marked a turning point in history, a recognition that every human being deserves dignity and freedom. But let's be clear, abolition didn't happen overnight. It was the result of decades, even centuries of struggle and sacrifice. And even when slavery was outlawed, the fight for true equality was far from over. The legacy of slavery continued to cast a long shadow, manifesting in Jim Crow laws in the US, persistent racism and economic systems designed to keep marginalized groups trapped in poverty and exploitation. And as the world industrialized and globalized, new forms of exploitation emerged that were eerily reminiscent of the old chains, just with shinier links. The illusion of freedom, trapped by debt and low wages. Let's talk about economic slavery. It's a term that makes some people uncomfortable. Slavery is too strong a word, they might say. People have choices. And sure, on the surface, it seems like there's more freedom than ever. We can choose our jobs, our homes, our Instagram filters, but how real is that choice when millions of people are stuck in dead-end, low-wage jobs, working long hours for pitiful pay? Think about it. You work full-time, maybe even multiple jobs just to make ends meet. You're one illness away from financial ruin. You're drowning in debt, student loans, credit cards, payday loans with interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. You're stuck in a survival trap with little hope of advancement or a better future. Does that sound like freedom? Now, I'm not saying that all low-wage jobs are inherently exploitative. But when workers are denied basic rights, when they're paid less than a living wage, when they're trapped in cycles of debt they can never escape, that's not a free market, that's a rigged game. The price of stuff. Consumerism's grip on our souls. Now let's talk about another type of modern shackle. Consumerism. We live in a world obsessed with stuff, the latest gadgets, the trendiest clothes, the biggest houses. We're bombarded with messages telling us that we need more to be happy. And it's not just about material possessions, it's about experiences, status, the carefully curated image we present on social media. This constant craving for more creates a vicious cycle. We work longer hours to buy things we don't need, to impress people we don't even like. We go into debt to keep up with the Joneses, who are probably drowning in debt themselves. And all too often, the true cost of our consumption is hidden. The exploited workers in sweatshops, the environmental destruction caused by our insatiable appetite for cheap goods. Consumerism isn't just about individual choices, it's a system designed to keep us perpetually dissatisfied, always striving for the next purchase, the next dopamine hit. It's a form of mental and emotional slavery that keeps us chasing fleeting pleasures while ignoring the true meaning and purpose of our lives. Big Brother's new tools, surveillance in the digital age. Remember the days when the biggest privacy threat was someone reading your diary? Me neither. Today, we live in a world of ubiquitous surveillance where our every move is tracked, recorded, and analyzed. Our phones are listening, our cameras are watching, and our data is being bought and sold by corporations and governments alike. Some might argue that if you're not doing anything wrong, you have nothing to hide. But that's a dangerous oversimplification. Privacy isn't just about hiding secrets, it's about autonomy, control, and the freedom to be ourselves without fear of judgment or reprisal. Think about it. Every Google search, every website you visit, every interaction on social media is tracked and compiled into a detailed profile of who you are, what you think, and how you behave. This information can be used to manipulate our choices, influence our opinions, and even predict our future actions. Invisible chains, social norms, and the pressure to conform. Let's talk about a more insidious form of control, the invisible chains of social norms. We're all born into a world with pre-existing rules, expectations and beliefs about how we should look, act and think. These norms are often so deeply ingrained that we don't even question them. We just accept them as the way things are. But what happens when these norms limit our potential, stifle our creativity, or force us to conform to narrow definitions of success, beauty, or happiness? What happens when we're afraid to speak our truth, to challenge the status quo, or to simply be ourselves for fear of being judged, rejected, or ostracized? Social pressure can be a powerful force, shaping our choices and behaviors in subtle but profound ways. It can lead to self-censorship, conformity, and an unwillingness to challenge injustice or inequality. And in its most extreme forms, it can create a climate of fear and silence where dissent is stifled and individuality is crushed.